Welcome back to the Talking Devils podcast, brought to you by talkingthedevils.co.uk. I am your host, Keane Franey, and as always, I am joined by former Manchester United player Phil Marsh, live on this Friday, nice Friday evening. I'm here to talk all things Manchester United, all the latest news, all the latest going on in terms of our performances and games, and everything that comes up in the topic of conversation when we talk about United. So, Phil, first of all, haven't spoke to you in a couple of days. A lot's happened in the last couple of days in terms of our club, in terms of our players on international duty. We're going to touch on all that tonight. But first of all, how are you? Haven't talked to you in a few days. How's life?
Yeah, good, mate. Thanks. Back to work, so a little bit of a routine back now, and just trying to get back into the swing of things. But yeah, not too bad. Obviously, it's weekend now, so I can have a little relaxing. I've got no game this week, so just have a bit of a chill this weekend, and obviously watch some of the football over the weekend. But yeah, good, thanks.
That's good. That's good. And look, I think for me, this part of September is always very hard for me with the international break. Not just because I'm Irish, but because it's not Manchester United aren't playing, and I just find that really hard. I just like international football. Sometimes some international breaks. If it's not the Euros at the World Cup, I don't want to know about it. But hi ho, we've only one more week of it left. I'll talk about my heartbreak later on in the show in terms of a certain man breaking my country's heart. But I'm all good too. Literally just finished work as well. So happy to be here. Happy to chat all things United today. Look, I suppose first thing we'll touch on tonight on the podcast tonight is obviously our performance last Sunday away at Molineux against Wolves. It was a very, very tight game. 1-0 win. For the most part, when we go to Molineux, it's always kind of a tough place to go. I know last season we massively dominated there, but that was kind of a game at the end of the season where both teams had nothing to play for. This time round, obviously, Wolves had a new manager, a new approach, and a couple of new players in their squad. Same Man United, we did the debut of Varane, obviously first start for Sancho as well, and it was just kind of overall it was a very tight game, and for me it was kind of an eye-opener in terms of our grit and determination that we showed, that we kept plugging away during the game. But what are your thoughts on our overall performance on Sunday, and kind of what stood out for you?
Yeah, again, I don't think it was a stellar performance by any stretch, but again, getting the job done, and when you don't play your best and you pick up 3 points, that's always a good sign. But yeah, for me, it was a difficult game. I think, as you said, there was a lot of new players for both teams. Obviously, quite new to the sort of Premier League, if you like, and it did look a little bit cagey, and it was one of them games where in hindsight we could have been sort of dropping another couple of points, but in the end we managed to get the goal. As you said, we kept going, and Mason popped up with a great goal, individual a bit of skill and a good finish. So yeah, I mean, again, I think in terms of the whole team performance, it wasn't nowhere near to the levels that we want it to be, and that we probably expect it to be. But I think it's just at this time of the season, it's the first few games. You want to just try and get a few points on the board. Performances aren't always going to be great. It's going to have peaks and troughs, and obviously new players coming into the side. They're always going to maybe take a couple of games to gel and things like that. So overall, I think Varane looked solid, which was a positive. I think he looked very, very composed. Greenwood again, probably the best player for us, and somebody who's been, flying this season and looks really sharp. So he was probably, the standout player for me, if you like, in that particular game. But I think we sort of hit the nail on the head last week when we talked about Wolves and saying that they just lack that goal, and they can't really, score many goals at the moment. So although they did create a few chances and there was a few sort of worrying moments in the game, I never really felt that threatened that they was going to sort of score or trouble the scoreline heavily. So I knew the longer the game went on, there was probably, if there was going to be a winner, it was only going to be sort of one team, and thankfully, we just about got over the line there with that one.
Yeah, and I think when you look at kind of before I actually get my thoughts on that, Reese is also in the comments here as well. Reese says evening to you both, and also Victoria's Secrets as well in the comments as always as well. Says hi folks, happy Friday. Usually it's happy Friday, but again, international break for me, just That's my opinion. I'm just 1 week away from seeing Ronaldo at Old Trafford. I just want this week to fly. I really, really do. But yeah, like I think for the large part, Phil, like when you look at the way Wolves threatened us, I think Adama Traore is probably their biggest focal point. And I thought maybe his decision making definitely, wasn't great. And I think Luke Shaw dealt with him very well. I thought Raphael Varane was very solid. One thing I really liked about his performance, I don't know if you noticed it, but his communication on that right hand side of the defense with Wan-Bissaka, it was very good. And you can see what even Wan-Bissaka's positional sense improved a bit with Raphael Varane behind him, because Raphael Varane was consistently communicating. I thought Maguire as well was a threat also. From set pieces, he looked quite strong there. The only one thing I noticed about this performance is we're missing Scott McTominay. I think like we're missing his physical presence, because there was a couple of times during the game where we didn't get the second ball, we weren't winning the second ball, and I think that was probably due to the lack of physical presence that Fred has in midfield compared to what McTominay would. And I think when you see McTominay wasn't in the team, that bit of physicality in midfield was kind of lost. But look, we got the job done, most importantly, and I think when you look at kind of the way the game shaped out, like you're absolutely bang on in terms of the longer the game went, the more it benefited us in terms of, we have the firepower front to get a goal. Like we've individual quality there that can, let's say if we're not at the races that we do have to a Greenwood there, we've a Cavani, now we've a Cristiano, but he wasn't there on the weekend. But so we've players like that who just in that one moment can produce a piece of magic, and that's what we've seen. I think Mason done very well, with his finish. And again, like I think when you look at Mason Greenwood in his first couple of games, it's no surprise that he's been nominated for Premier League Player of the Month and also Man United Player of the Month. When you consider like his output in the last few games, and I think with Mason at the start of the season, he's kind of picked up from where he left off at the end of last season. Like he had 8 goals in the last 10 games of last season. So like he's picking up, where he left off. And I think the addition now, these other forwards in the team, obviously Rashford's due to come back in a couple of weeks. Cristiano's coming in. Cavani's getting match fitness. These players coming back is going to help his sharpness as well. And I think, iron sharpens iron. I think that's probably the best phrase I can use in terms of the way he's getting better. So I think the form of Mason has been very important. And if you look at probably in our first 3 games this season in the league, he's been our most consistent player, and he's really shown in these last couple of games. He's shown a level of maturity, that we didn't maybe see at the start of last season when he was having difficult times. It really shows. And another thing that I'd like to say as well, you look at the start we had last season, like we didn't perform in the games, we didn't pick up points. This season is a contrasting difference. Like, let's say Southampton. Last season, we probably would have lost that game. This year, we got a point. Went away to Molineux. This season, we went there like in front of a full crowd, and more often than not, we either draw or lose. So like the fact we're picking up these points is showing a real good grit mentality from this team. And I think that stems from the manager. I think that he's really improving that, and I think when you look at the overall kind of unity of the team, I think if we can keep that there and just keep if the 4 players can really get them goals in them moments, and we just have that kind of never give up mentality, which is what Manchester United really is, we can definitely go far this season.
Yeah, I agree, mate. I think, it's always been a massive part of Manchester United, playing till the final whistle. The amount of late goals that we've scored over the years to win games is there to prove that point. And I think obviously now, Ollie's instilling that mentality in the players, but also now bringing these kind of players in that we have done, likes of Varane and Ronaldo, who have, got that winning mentality. That is now a little bit of an added extra to get into the group. And I think everyone, the likes of the young kids and, Sancho's of this world and Greenwood can only learn from that. And, that sort of is an infectious sort of trait that you can have that will sort of pass through the group now. And, they don't expect anything else than a win. No matter who they're playing every game, you've got to go into it with that, winning mentality. And I think them boys I've just mentioned there will, bring that to the club even more than what it was sort of last year. So, yeah, looking forward to obviously seeing how the team progress. And as I say, when you do not, you're not on your top form and you don't play your best football, if you're still picking up points and you're getting results, that's a very good sign for any team.
Yeah, definitely. And again, we've seen a lot of this last season where sometimes it would take us to go a goal down and then we really kick into gear and you'd see kind of the sharpness in our attack. This year is different, in the respect that like we didn't concede that goal. Like, well, especially at Wolves, we didn't concede that goal to really kick us into gear. We kept plugging away. We kept trying to create chances. Now, look, I think Paul Pogba, like what he's shown in these first couple of games with versatility, played the first two on the left, dropped back into the middle of the park on Sunday. And again, one of the big reasons why I think we're missing Scott as well is, I don't know, like I noticed it a good bit during the game, is Pogba was our deepest player. Like he'd come, like in terms of our midfield players, he was dropping in between the centre halves and getting the ball. Usually that'd be McTominay's job to beat that first line in the press. So Paul Pogba's shown he has that ability that he can play in a midfield. And I think when Rashford comes back, I think we may see Pogba play alongside of McTominay because we have the security of Raphael Varane at the back. I think Scott McTominay has the physical presence in midfield, and Paul Pogba has the ability to help us transition the ball quickly. That if we have that versatility in Paul Pogba, that when Marcus comes back, it allows our forward players to, as you said, like flourish in their moments and create a lot of chances. And I think we're gonna see that in these next couple of weeks. Pogba showing his versatility, Fernandes being that influential player. And look, when you have the best player in the world and Cristiano Ronaldo coming to the football club, it really does all measure up. It's just keeping the players fit and making sure that level of consistency does get there. And if we're not playing well, you have match winners there. I think that's what the most important thing is, and something that we haven't had for quite some time is match winners, because we've had it so many of them down the years, and finally now what all he's done is he's kind of cleansed the dressing room and brought in match winners. And that's what's important. If you're going to win a title or win the big trophies, you need match winners in there.
Most definitely. And I think that is exactly what we've got now. And as I say, when games aren't, quite going the way you want it to, or, there's nothing really much in the game, we've now got players that can win a game out of nothing and create a chance out of nothing. And we've got the X factor. Obviously, bringing Ronaldo in is a massive part of that. He's obviously going to, be a massive influence on other players, and he's going to be able to produce moments like he has done all his career that, could potentially, get us to a final or could win us a trophy this year, or, he produces on the big stage in the big moments. But not only him, obviously Greenwood showing now that he can step up to the mark and score goals when, things that maybe aren't going as well and the game doesn't look like anything's happening. He can produce a moment out of nothing and score a goal. Obviously Sancho's not fully up to speed yet. I think he'll be one who, obviously, once he gets a couple more games under his belt and he sort of starts producing, he's maybe another one. You got Rashford coming back, Martial on his day, he can do stuff like that. So the options there, and obviously Cavani, I've not mentioned him, but the options there are frightening. And hopefully once the performances start to pick up a little bit, there's going to be some exciting times ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the one thing about Sancho as well, and a lot of it at his time at Dortmund, he takes him to about October, November, December, where he really picks it up. He really drives the form. One thing I noticed with Sancho last season is you looked at Erling Haaland's numbers from the start of the season till December. They weren't great. Look at Haaland's numbers from December to the end of the season. It's no coincidence his numbers came up when Sancho's form drove into gear. So I think Sancho will see the best of him in the next couple of months. Obviously, he's coming from the German league to the Premier League. The Premier League is the most physical, fast-paced league in the world. Obviously, being English, he's been within the squad, but it's a different kettle of fish going from that. So I think he will adjust. It will take time. But look, as I said, he has the individual quality to get better and to hit match peak fitness. So it will take some time, but we will see the best of Sancho. I've no doubt about it.
Yeah, and that's what inevitably we all want to see. And I think he's obviously a player who's played at the highest level. He's obviously a confident lad. He's played for Dortmund last year with some of the best players in the world, like Haaland and Royce and people like that. So it's not a case of him sort of not being up to the standard or anything. I just think, he's just sort of new to the league. He's probably just trying to ease his way in a little bit, and he probably doesn't want to, make too many mistakes as attacking players can do sometimes when, you're trying to make something happen. So he's maybe, just being a bit more cautious at the moment. And, it is like that when you first sign sometimes at a big club, there's a lot of pressure and all eyes are on him and stuff. And I think he's just, sort of still sort of getting used to the speed and the pace, because obviously the Premier League, as you just mentioned, is probably the best league in the world in terms of speed and intensity and the toughest tackling and stuff. So I've no doubt he will come good. I'm just obviously thinking it may take him, as you say, a couple more games, and once he does start getting them performances in that, and gets a bit of confidence, maybe gets his first goal, I think, then he can sort of kick on then, and
the floodgates open then from that point.
He can then kick on and become a sort of fantastic player and asset to the club.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I agree. I was going to come to a couple of comments here just with regards to tonight's show. Wayne's here on our Facebook page. Wayne says, "Evening, guys. Hope you're well. Hope you're all well, Wayne." Wayne's been very famous this week. I've seen him on the telly and all, so do check out. He's everywhere.
Yeah.
He's everywhere these days. Victoria's Secrets also says in the comments, "We've so many players who can unlock defense with a moment of magic. Bruno, Pogba, Ronaldo, Greenwood, Sancho, Rashford. Absolutely. The options are frightening." Reese talks about in terms of performance, made a difference. Count as Wolves are always a problem for us, regardless of performance. Yeah, we showed it at Old Trafford last year as well when we did win 1-0 in the last minute. Like they seem to be one of our bogey teams. Like they always make life tough for us, regardless of where the game is held. So yeah, look, it was a very good, well-earned 3 points. Amy's also here as well. Amy says, "Evening." Reese also proceeds to say, "So many match winners and game breakers that sets challengers apart and trophy winners." Absolutely. Victoria's Secrets also says, "It's a good sign when you play poorly and still manage to sneak a 1-0 win. All title winners have that ability to win 3 points when not playing well." I wouldn't say we didn't play well. I thought for large parts we did control it. It's just Wolves were very organised, and though they're tough to break down, but for large parts of the game, I thought we managed the game well. And look, we nullified their threats as well in terms of Traore. And I think it's one of the first times I've ever seen Raul Jimenez never get a sniff in the game, and that was largely down to Maguire and Varane being quite solid at the back. Reese has a question for Phil. He says, "Question for Phil. Do you think the words Ollie said about that Everton game when we lost 4-0 is becoming close to reality because the squad now as it is and who we signed plus the new coaches?"
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously that game was sort of, a bit of a eye-opener, if you like. But yeah, I think the squad's coming along really good. And as I said, the coaching staff and all that side of things is looking good for me. I mean, anyway, from sort of an outsider looking in, I think, the squad's in, as I said, probably the best position it's been in for a long, long time. And, even though I don't think we've sort of, had a complete performance yet, I think obviously the signs are there that, we are heading in the right direction, and a lot of the players now are sort of, getting up to top speed, and we've got obviously Ronaldo to come in, so that's going to be a massive plus for everyone at the club. Obviously that's going to be, massive for everyone, not just the players. I think the fans, the coaching staff, and everyone to have such an iconic figure. I think he'll make a massive difference. And yeah, for me, I just think sometimes you need sort of them games where things maybe don't quite go your way to sort of put things into perspective, and then it makes everyone sort of keen then for in the next game to make sure you put in a better performance. And I think that's what will happen with Manchester United this year. I think there will be times where the performances and the levels from certain players and in certain games aren't where they need to be. But if we can still pick up results and points, then that's again a sign of a team that's heading in the right direction, and inevitably one that's going to be challenging at the end of the season for hopefully a lot of trophies, which that's what we need to be doing this year with the recruitment that we've made.
Yeah, definitely. I think look, I think the demand is there that we do push on this year and we do challenge, and I think we will. Like, and we talk about recruitment. I don't think that's over either. I think maybe January we may see one or two maybe come in as well, because I think the club are being proactive, not being reactive, and I think that showed with the Ronaldo signing that we went out and got one of the best players in the world. So we definitely are in a very good place. And I think Reese's question is very fair there, because I remember when Solskjaer said after that 4-0 Everton game in 2019, he did say, I'm going to be successful here. And he said, there's going to be a lot of players who played out there today who aren't here. If you actually look at that starting lineup, how many players that were in that starting lineup that day are starters now? The only players like me look at that there is Lindelof and Rashford, David De Gea as well. Other than that, large majority of that team doesn't play for Man United anymore. So they're not regular starters. So I think Ollie has done very well in that regard. And I think he's managing the squad quite well in terms of expectation. And look, we're pushing forward in a way now where this season he finished third in his first full season, second full season. Though he is pushing, he is making that push. And I think he's shown the ambition by the players he's identifying. He's identifying the right targets to come in and really kind of improve the dressing room. Because I think Roy Keane always speaks about it, characters in the dressing room. And I think that's what Ollie's doing. He's bringing in characters. You're bringing in a Rafael Varane. You're bringing in a Cristiano Ronaldo. You're bringing in players who are going to kind of lead that dressing room. It's no coincidence. The minute Harry Maguire comes into the football club, he gets the captaincy. I think that's he's bringing in players who can be natural leaders in there. Because I think if you look at the Manchester United dressing room the last 7-8 years, when you really look at the leaders and how they kind of left the football club, Rio, Vidic and Evra all left at the same time. That they're three leaders. Ryan Giggs came out of the dressing room. I know he went into the coaching staff, but that's basically another captain, another figure out of the dressing room. Wayne Rooney left 2 years later. When you really look at the time frame of terms of our biggest leaders leaving the dressing room, they all kind of nearly left at once. Yeah. And they're when you look now, if you only look now a couple of years, well, even more than a couple of years, 4 or 5 years later, we're only getting them leaders back into the dressing room now, and them characters back into the dressing room now, where they demand success. And I think we're coming towards the end of that transitional period now, where we're at the point now where we're nearly just about there in terms of about having the right dressing room and the right playing squad to go out and challenge for the biggest trophies.
Definitely, I think that's a great point, and I think it's something that goes a little bit unnoticed in my opinion. You can have as many good players and young talents and prospects and stuff as you want, but as you say, if these players aren't the right characters and haven't got the sort of experience and stuff in the changing room, and to have a sort of team spirit that's got that winning mentality like we've seen in previous years, then talent only gets you so far. And I think that's in any walk of life, you need to have people and a group of players that we have at the moment, where you see there's leaders, there's different types of characters. It's not just all the same type of people. You need to have that where if things aren't going right, you've got players who can keep people in line in the right way. And I think maybe over the last few years, obviously coming up to now, as you just said, I think we're in the best state that we've been in a while in terms of a dressing room and that kind of thing. But going back maybe a couple of seasons, I think that's where we was maybe just falling a little bit short in terms of that overall sort of atmosphere in the changing rooms and in the dressing room. When people are away from the training ground, you've got to have them characters in your changing room, like when I was at the club and there was Roy Keane and them people who make sure that the standards don't drop, make sure that if players need telling something, they get told. And there's a right way of doing it, and maybe sometimes like Keane, when people overstep that mark at times, but again, he was only doing that in the best interest of the club. And I think now, when you look at our dressing room, there is, some real proper experience in there, and there's people who, they've got that will to win, and it's a desire, and they're not just there to pick up the paycheck, if you like. It's the club means something to them, and you've got to win at all costs. And I think that's the mentality that you have to have when you play for Manchester United. Which again, I think now we're sort of in a lot better sort of state and situation than we have been for quite a while. As you just mentioned there, like Rio and Evra and Giggsy and all them left pretty much one after another, and they was all leaders and big characters in the dressing room. And obviously massive shoes to fill in terms of not just in the changing room, but as a player as well. So yeah, hopefully that this current group now is going to be one that we have for quite a while, and it can be a successful group moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think one thing you have to kind of really analyze at that as well is one of the reasons why I definitely would look at this dressing room and say it's the best it's been in a long time is, I know I said it earlier, but the amount of times we went behind last season and they managed to come back, like they had that drive and determination. Now I'm not gonna, like, I suppose, badmouth the previous manager we had, Jose Mourinho, but look at the amount of times we went behind under him and come back. It was very seldom. It was very seldom. The dressing room, they'd have their heads down. Under this manager now, the amount of times we've gone behind in games and we've managed to come back, it shows the unity in the dressing room. It shows the mentality that the players will fight for each other, but it also fight for the manager, that they'll run through brick walls for him. And look, the proof is in the pudding of that, because the amount of times we've gone on and come back in games, and I think that shows it.
Yeah, again, another great point. I think if your manager's got that trust in you, and you, as you just say, you run through a brick wall for him, then if you do go behind in a game, maybe under Mourinho, because of the way he was with certain players and the tactics or whatever it may be, some players, maybe I wouldn't say they ever down tools or put that through the towel in, but you give that extra 10-15% for a manager who has that trust and has that relationship with you, where you feel as though you want to do anything for him. Whereas, as you say, in previous times, that may not have been the case with every single player. So I think now, the way Ollie is, and obviously I know him personally in terms of his man-to-man management, I know for a fact that he'll be making every single player feel valued and feel like they're part of a team and feel like they're part of a squad now that's hopefully going to be successful and challenging for titles. And it is a hard thing to do as a manager. When you're not playing in a team, there's obviously going to be players who are disappointed, and that's one thing you've got to deal with, obviously, as a manager, and try and keep everyone happy, which is an impossible task at times, especially with so many big names at such a big club. But I think if there's anyone who can do it, I think Ollie, he's been there himself, and he's played that role in terms of not always starting, so he knows firsthand what that feels like. And I think at the moment it seems as though everyone's in good spirits and looking forward to sort of what's to come with this group. And I think that's testament to the manager.
Yeah, and it looks like they're all singing off the same hymn sheet, which is always good. And look, long may it continue, 100%. Before we kind of touch on the international break in terms of our Reds on international duty, just want to touch on Mason Greenwood just for a moment, and Phil, just your opinion on him, because he seems to be our most informed player at the moment. He's obviously been nominated for Premier League Player of the Month and also United Player of the Month. He scored in every game that we've played this season. He looks like to be firing all cylinders. Where do you think he's at now at the moment? Because obviously, like, he didn't get called up to the England squad, which I for one don't get really, because he's one of the best finishers in the country. But do you think maybe? Well, my opinion is I think he should be an England international at the moment, because England's options up front. He's one of the most informed strikers in England, bar Harry Kane. But do you maybe think it's benefited him now that he missed the Euros, and he had a full pre-season, and the fact he didn't get called up for this international break? Do you think maybe in the long run this will help Greenwood kind of prolong his kind of form over the season? And do you think maybe he'll be one of our kind of top scorers come the end of the season?
Yeah, for me, I think if we're being honest, Mason Greenwood is more than worthy of being in that England squad. And I think no matter what club you support, I think if you're being honest, I think he's more than earned that. And I think his talent and the sort of potential that he's got, he should be someone who's definitely involved. But again, I don't think it's a massive problem for him. He's obviously only a young kid, and he's got plenty of time to get himself into that England squad, which I'm sure he will do eventually. But yeah, as I say, I think that has sort of benefited him, in my opinion, just sort of over this last 6 months, in terms of not being involved at the Euros and obviously having a good pre-season. I think the way he started this campaign has proven that, and I think he looks sharp. He's obviously got a point to prove, and for me, he's been probably our best player up to this point in terms of, them first 3 games. I think he's been lively, he's obviously scoring goals, looks really confident. And for me now, obviously, the world's his oyster. I think obviously Ronaldo coming in will be a massive sort of bonus for him in terms of he can learn off somebody who's played at the top level and got massive experience in terms of playing in them front striking positions. So for me, yeah, I think Mason Greenwood's going to be a massive sort of player this year, even though Ronaldo's going to come in and potentially play in the number 9 role. For me, I would feel very hard done by if I was him. If he sort of took his place, I would actually still like to see Greenwood and maybe play him on the left, just for the time being, just until the likes of Rashford and stuff maybe get fully back up to speed. And I think he's more than warranted that sort of starting position. So yeah, hopefully he can keep performing the way he has done. And as I say, once like Ronaldo come in and obviously he's playing with better players and learning from someone of his caliber, then he could maybe even take his game another step up, which is frightening for considering how young he is.
Yeah, I think like playing with Ronaldo is definitely just on the training pitch every day. He's going to pick up little things in terms of movement, in terms of decision making and kind of where to be. Like his finishing is already so polished for a 19-year-old. It's ridiculous. Like Greenwood's ceiling is so high in terms of of his potential. Like Greenwood, I've seen you see the likes of Mbappe and Haaland, who are fantastic players. Like they're very good players. I look at Mason Greenwood and I see the level of maturity in his game for a 19-year-old. I've never seen it before in my lifetime. Like if you even look at Cristiano when he was at 19, he was still so raw. Like he was very good. He'd beat a player. He'd do a lot of skills, but he was still very raw. We didn't see kind of the best Cristiano till he hit about 21, not 06-07 season.
No,
Mason Greenwood.
I agree with that. And it's funny because obviously Mason Greenwood at this moment in time, as you say, he's only 19, and to show sort of some of the maturity and some of the sort of decision making and obviously to be so confident at that age is ridiculous, really, to think about it. I mean, likes of Wayne Rooney and people, I remember seeing him at a young age and thinking, wow, this kid's going to be an unbelievable talent. And obviously Wayne Rooney went on to be one of the best players. But as you've just said there, I think Greenwood is like, I don't know, there's something different about him. And as I say, I think he's still not, nowhere near fully reached his maximum potential. And to be so good at this age and playing at the level he is, I think, it's absolutely mind-blowing as to how good he could potentially be. And you wouldn't know what foot he is. He's so good off both feet.
Do you know he takes his penalties with his right foot? Like imagine that, like he's left foot and he's so good with his left foot that and he still takes his penalties with his right. Like that shows how polished he is in terms of his finishing.
And not only that shows that he's obviously been either a right-footed or left-footed player, but because he's obviously worked on his finishing so much and he's obviously put the hours in and practiced, that is like unbelievable to sort of have a player who's so talented and so good and also can shoot just as good with both feet. I think that's like such a unbelievable sort of skill and sort of added bonus to have as an attacking player, because as a defender, if I'm right-footed and that's my main sort of foot to use, you try and show me onto my left-hand side and make me shoot my weaker foot. With Greenwood, it doesn't really matter which way you show him because he's good on both feet. And as a defender, you're sort of thinking, if I show him on the left, he'll score with his right. If you show him on the right, he'll hit it with his left. And it's such a sort of must be such a hard sort of thing to do as a defender, to sort of mark and play against somebody who's so good off both sides. And as I say, he's only going to get better at that. And to show the sort of levels that he's shown already is sort of frightening. So yeah, Mason Greenwood, watch this space.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah, he could be.
And Reese says here in the comments that Mason Greenwood scored a 30-yard free kick in the academy with his right foot as well. He's by far the best 2-footed player in the league. It's not a bad shout, to be to be completely honest.
And it's not. I mean, when I did my coaching badge in 2016, and the final assessment was at Carrington, and I did my UEFA B, and I spoke to a few of the coaches that were there, obviously from when I was there as a kid, and Tony Whelan, who was at the academy at the time, said to me, "Come in and do some coaching if you want to with some of the younger kids." So I said, yeah, I said I will do, and obviously took him up on that, and I came in, and at the time I was doing some coaching with the under 14s, and certain Mason Greenwood was in the under 14s at that time, and I remember just stood on the sideline just watching the lads training, and I seen Mason Greenwood, and I was like, "Oh, who's that kid?" to one of the coaches, and he said, "Oh, it's Mason Greenwood," and I was like, "So he looked good." Obviously, just watching him like for 5 minutes, and he stood out straight away. And they invited me to go down to there was like a Premier League tournament on the Saturday morning, so I came down and watched. And they played 4 games, and I watched, and honestly, Mason Greenwood played, and he scored some absolutely ridiculous goals. And honestly, I mean, I know it was only under 14s, and whatever, but he was just walking past players like he wasn't there. He was scoring goals with the left foot, right foot, 25-yarders, benders, and I was thinking, like, this kid's unbelievable. I was like, he's definitely one to sort of watch out for. And I remember coming home, and I remember speaking to my dad, because my dad was asking me about, did you see anyone at the club, and how was some of the coaches and stuff? And I said, yeah, I spoke to a few coaches. I said, I tell you what, Dad, there was this lad who was playing then. I said he was unbelievable, and he said, Mason Greenwood, the lad was called. I said, he'll be one to watch out for, I'm telling you. And like, funny enough, obviously, like a couple of years later, and he was sort of in and around the first team. I said to my dad, I said, "Oh, that Mason Greenwood's sort of not far off getting in the first team now. I think he's only like 17." And he was like, "Oh, you said, didn't you, about him being good?" And I was like, "Yeah." I said, to be honest, I said he stuck out like a sore thumb, and he was unbelievable even then. And as we've just talked about there, he's obviously put the work in, and he loves football. I remember just seeing him and watching him, and had a little chat to him, and you can tell he's really passionate about football and just wants to get better and improve. And that's the sort of mentality and sort of the mindset that you need to have. And I think he'll be such a unbelievable talent and unbelievable.
He'll be a superstar. He's going to be a superstar of world football. And I thought, like, when I looked at our youngsters in terms of who can break Wayne Rooney's goal scoring record, like Marcus Rashford's on 87 goals now, more, I think could be on 88, 89 now. I think Marcus could potentially break it because of his age. I think Mason Greenwood could. If he stays at the football club long enough, he can. I think he can break Wayne Rooney's record. I really am confident that he'll be the one to do it.
Well, there's no reason why he can't. I mean, if he stays at Manchester United for the vast majority of his career, as we say, he's only 19 now, and the rate of knots he's improving, and obviously he's scoring goals regularly. I think he could beat it, and not just beat it. I think he could, like, seriously blow that away with the amount of talent he's got. So yeah, fingers crossed he keeps improving and keeps learning and listening to all these coaches and top players that are around him. And as I say, fingers crossed he stays at the football club for many years and can keep sort of showing the sort of progress that he has done. Because if he does, wow, what a player he's going to be.
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to progress, and I think he's going to definitely score a lot of goals at the football club. And if he stays here 10 plus years following this year, without a shadow of doubt, he breaks it. And I think, he will push forward. And Reece says here, he says he thinks Marcus Rashford will do it, but then Greenwood will go on to break that record. Look, if they can push each other to break each other's records, look, long may that continue. But since we're kind of on the topic of records, it's paining me to say this right now, but there was a small matter of an international game during the week between the Republic of Ireland and Portugal. In Portugal, me personally, getting personal about it, I thought my country were very hard done by that game. The referee wasn't the best, but Cristiano just showed what a mentality monster he was. His country wasn't playing well at all, but he managed to score 2 goals in the final 6 minutes of the game to win the game 2-1 for Portugal. which makes him the leading men's international goal scorer. Again, he's forever breaking records, showing consistently why he's the greatest of all time. What are your thoughts on Ronaldo breaking the record and kind of continuing to show, at the age of 36, kind of what a gem of a player he is?
Yeah, he's just, he's a freak, isn't he? Let's be honest. I mean, I think, to still be playing at the level that he is at his age, and still performing the way he is, and to obviously break another record, it just shows that obviously age is just a number, and his work ethic and drive and passion for the game, and obviously wanting to be the best that he can be, is there for everyone to see. And he's probably seen a few of these pundits and stuff writing him off and saying, will he do it in the Prem, sort of all this kind of stuff, and that's what he uses as fuel. He uses that to just keep proving people wrong time after time. And for me, that record isn't a surprise that he's brought that. And I think what's even more impressive about the 2 goals he scored the other night is he's missed a penalty in the first half.
Brilliant save, by the way.
and it was a great save. So it's not like he's sort of missed a target or anything. He's missed a penalty. Now, my experience and my sort of feeling on, if you miss a penalty, or if you miss a big chance, or if you have a big moment in a game that doesn't go your way, that can sort of linger, and that can sort of stay on your mind for quite a long time in a game, and it can even to some extent put you off your game, and maybe end up getting subbed off or whatever. For him, I think he's shown this numerous times. He's missed penalties loads of times before in the past. Doesn't faze him. He just thinks, right, next chance I'm going to bury it. And that kind of mentality is like what separates, I think, sort of elite players to very good players. And for him, the movement he's shown, especially for that last goal. Obviously, there's been a phase of play where it's potentially a cross was coming in, he's ran offside. Some players who are not at the level he is, annoyed that the cross hasn't come in and stay there and stand offside. He was straight back on the move, got himself back on side. Cross came in, and he's sort of on the move.
The way he guided that header was beautiful.
Yeah, and for somebody who's such a good player, I mean, the amount of goals he scored in the air and with his head is a joke, to be honest. I mean, he is a big lad, and he's got a great leap on him. Let's be honest, but the timing and sort of the way that he guided that header into the corner, and he's done that sort of loads of times in his career. It's a fine art, that, and obviously he's put a lot of work in on that, and you can see that he's done that. And I can't wait to sort of see him at Old Trafford with the likes of Luke Shaw and people putting crosses in. I think he's somebody who can add that extra dimension, because I think at this moment in time, other than Cavani, I don't really think and Maguire, I don't think we've really got a sort of aerial threat or somebody who can score different types of goals. And Ronaldo, for me, is somebody who can score any type of goal at any point in a game, and he's going to be sort of the X factor for me, that's going to sort of bring Manchester United from a very good side to hopefully the top side this year. Yeah,
definitely. And again, them 2 goals showed why he's a mentality monster, and I mean that. I remember, I was messaging, obviously, I being Irish, I was heartbroken when he scored that second goal, because I thought, for me, me personally, we're getting them 3 points because we held on for so long during the game. For large parts, we kept Ronaldo quiet. John Egan and Shane Duffy defended really well at the back. Seamus Coleman done well. Doherty was fantastic at left back. And I thought, geez, we're doing really well. And Portugal took off Bruno and all. And I was thinking, Jesus Christ, we're getting the 3 points. And then once Ronaldo scored that first one, I was like, Jesus. Look, a point would still be great. A point would be fantastic. Great result away to Portugal. But then with 96 minutes, the movement he done to get that header, and then to guide the header where he guided it. I know Bazunu nearly got to the header, but it was a fantastic goal scorer from him. Again, the shows he missed the penalty, but he kept plugging away. And it doesn't matter if he was quiet for most of the game, he can still deliver in them big moments. And again, you mentioned it, these people from these different pundits, outlets, wherever they're from, they can keep consistently criticizing Cristiano, but Ollie said it, keep doing it. I think, like, I'd rather if they keep doing it, because it'll just fuel his fire and he'll continue to play better and he'll continue to score goals.
Yeah. I mean, I know for a fact that he loves when sort of, anyway, it doesn't matter who you are, like whatever, but he loves when people doubt him or say, he can't do that, or he's finished, or that's too much of a ask to do, because he's proven all over his career that he can produce on the big stage, and the numbers, the goals, the sort of trophies, everything. He's it's no surprise that he's not really had many injuries in his career, and that's because he looks after himself, like, in the best way that he can. Yeah, there's obviously people who are probably thinking, well, he's had luck really with that, but no, you create your own luck in this game, and for someone who's such a massive icon, he could be in a comfort zone now at 36. He's a multi millionaire. He doesn't have to come and play over in England again. He's already proven that he could do it in England, but because of the way he is, and because of the sort of drive and the passion and the will to sort of play at the top level for as long as he can, he's coming over here not just to make up the numbers and to have a nice little payday and see some of the United fans again and stuff like that. He's coming over here to make Manchester United from a very good team and sort of potential to winning a trophy. He wants to come over here and start winning trophies, and he wants to, he's happy with the accolades that he gets and the sort of individual award, but he's a winner, and that's what he wants to do. He's not coming here for a holiday. He's coming here to change Manchester United into a winning team, and I think he is the X factor, as I just mentioned, that can catapult Manchester United into being sort of that trophy winning side now, because they've got somebody with the experience and somebody who can deliver on the big stage. So fingers crossed that happens either this year or hopefully in the next couple of years in terms of the league title I'm on about.
Yeah, because that's their bread and butter. And like, I think, look, we mentioned on a previous podcast that if Ollie's the first manager to bring back the Premier League title post Sir Alex, it'd be romantic. But I'll go one further. If Ollie's the first manager to bring back the title led by Cristiano Ronaldo,
Wow.
Yeah, like, look, I'm just going to say it now. People thought I was unbearable when I sent that tweet out. I sent out a tweet last week, actually, a couple of days before Ronaldo actually signed. I said, come home for one last dance. The Stretford end awaits at Cristiano. 4,000 people engaged that tweet. A lot of Man City fans and a lot of people, when Ronaldo wasn't come to the club, engaged that. And just the picture I posted was the picture, remember, before the Juventus game in the Champions League a couple of years ago, when he came back and he was just sitting, like, standing in Old Trafford looking at the halls and taking in them surroundings. It was an iconic moment. But imagine him coming back for that second spell and comes back and helps Ollie win that first league title post Sir Alex. It would cement his legacy.
Yeah. And it actually feels like it's written in the stars, if you like. And I know I don't like to tempt fate, or I don't like to sort of, whatever. But for me, I feel as positive as I've felt in a long time in this group of players now. And not just because it's Cristiano Ronaldo that's come into the team. The centre half problem's been resolved. Varane, world class player. We've brought Sancho into the mix. I think in January, if he addresses the centre mid position as well, I think that could be the actual cherry on the cake, because then there's not really any position that I would feel that there's any sort of real weakness in, and the squad depth is there to challenge on all fronts. And with the players we've mentioned and the experience, and Ollie having the man-to-man management skills, I think that there's no actual reason and there's no stopping this group of players making that challenge and making that charge and having a good run in the Champions League, because we've got all the tools now to do it, and there's not really any excuse other than unless we have a ridiculous amount of injuries or whatever, then for me it's all systems go this season.
Yeah, 100%. And I think there's definitely a massive opportunity to win trophies because the squad depth you had that we mentioned that we haven't had it in quite some time. There's no excuse for me, in my opinion, to not be challenging for everything. But look, you never know. These things happen where a one-off game in a cup competition anomaly happens where the less fancy team beats us. But look, for the large part, I think we have the strength to challenge for everything this year. It's just fingers crossed, keeping players fit, keeping them consistent, keeping them in form, and hopefully we can push on this season for trophies and every trophy. That's what Manchester United are about. We're talking about internationals as well, Phil. I don't touch on kind of Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire last night for England because England, obviously, that game was marred in a lot of controversy outside of the footballing matters. But looking at the footballing side of the game in itself, Luke Shaw and Harry Maguire linked up quite well last night. Obviously, Harry Maguire scored from a set piece. What I'd like to touch on is the impact of Eric Ramsey coming in as our set piece coach in the last couple of weeks. Because if you actually look at Manchester United in the last couple of games, we haven't conceded from a set piece situation. We scored from a set piece situation. The two of our players scored from a set piece situation. And we seem to be defending set piece, and our zone marking situations have got a lot better in the last kind of couple of weeks. And looks like the immediate impact of our set piece coach, in my opinion, seems to be rubbing off on the players. And obviously the addition of Varane helps that too. But what do you make of kind of the overall impact of the set piece coach Eric Ramsey so far?
Yeah, I think it's been obvious for people to see that there's been an improvement. I think last season was sort of something that we struggle with. Goals getting conceded from set pieces, which that needed addressing, I think, and obviously I think that has been now. And as you say, we look a lot more solid at the back. Varane coming in obviously improves that anyway. But I just think now we look a little bit more organised, and I think everyone sort of knows the jobs a little bit better and in more detail, maybe because set pieces and corners and stuff like that sort of go a little bit under the radar, and they're a massive part of the game. If you can get good at both ends of the pitch at keeping clean sheets and being good at defending and also being a threat in the opposition box and scoring set pieces, it's a massive, can be a difference between 3 points in some games because sometimes teams defend well and you can't break them down, but if you can score off a corner or a free kick, then that's the difference between a point or 3 points. And yeah, I think there's definitely been some work going on the training pitch. And I think, yeah, we look a lot more threatening as well in the attacking half now. There's, players who, want to look like they want to get on the end of crosses. Obviously, Maguire's a massive focal point for us. I think he, the vast majority of balls that go into the box, he's, in and around it. And 9 times out of 10, he's wanting to get his head on it. So I think he can even probably, if he's honest with himself, I think he could probably do a little bit better at times with some of the headers that he puts in. But he's brave and he gets up well, and I think he could probably get 5 or 6 goals easily this season from set pieces because of how much of a threat he is. And then obviously now you put Ronaldo into the mix as well as
Varane as well.
Varane. So there's not just one or two. We've got a group of players now who are a threat on set pieces. And obviously with the likes of Bruno and Luke Shaw who are putting the deliveries in, the crossing's going to be on the money. So again, that could be something that we can sort of keep improving and could potentially win us some games this year, because again, I just touched on it there that set pieces are a massive part of the game, and a lot of people sort of take them for granted sometimes. And if you do improve on them and you can get better, and you can just, instead of just whipping balls in every time and getting a bit predictable, can you maybe make some little sort of move up that's off the cuff, and people don't sort of know what's going to happen, and then you score off something different. Obviously United's been sort of notorious for that over the years. Remember, obviously they won at Bradford when Beckham's pinged it to Scholes on the edge of the box.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Amazing, something different. And I think obviously Eric Ramsey's putting that sort of into place now, and it wouldn't surprise me obviously if there was some sort of wild card, if you like, that they throw in at a time and maybe get a goal or a good opportunity to maybe score a goal as well, because you've always got to try and improve, and you've always got to try and have something that can sort of surprise a team in a game. If you're doing things and it's all the same all the time, you get predictable, and I think that's the fine margin sometimes that you've got to sort of go to maybe get over the line.
Yeah, definitely. I think, and Reece said in the comments there, like Eric Ramsey coming in as a set piece coach could be the sign of the summer. Very well could be. Like, it could be the difference between winning the league and or win the different trophy. I think it is very possible. Touching away from Manchester United at the minute, Phil, because the guy addressed the elephant in the room. You got a hat-trick last weekend for your current club. You seem to be banging in the goals every week. Just talk to us a bit about your current form at the moment. You seem to be kind of a man in form and kind of producing consistent performances each week.
Yeah, obviously at the moment, I think it's purple patch, and you do go through these as a striker sometimes, and obviously you want to try and make the most of them. I think start of the season I started off well, scoring goals, and that's just continued. And I think obviously the more games that I've played, obviously I've just got more confident, and the match fitness is there now, and I just feel like I'm enjoying my football as much as I ever have done. So I think that's a massive part of it. And if you ask any footballer, if they're enjoying the football and things are going well at home, then 9 times out of 10 the football and performances follow suit. And for me, I'm in a great place at the moment in terms of outside of football, and in my fitness, and that's just showing on the football pitch. Not just the scoring of the goals. I think it's the team performances as well. We've got a youngish side, but it's a group of players that all want to improve and get better, and it's just obviously something that I'm sort of really enjoying being a part of at the moment.
Yeah, and look, the fact you said you're enjoying your football, I think that's a massive part. And I think when you look at a lot of the players in world football, the best players, when they express themselves and they're happy, you see the best of players, and it translates at every level. And look, absolutely delighted for you. And I always I follow your club on Twitter now, and I every match day I see Phil Marsh X2, Phil Marsh X3, the scene you getting goals and assists. We must get a fancy football going for your league, because you seem to be accruing quite the goals and assists at the moment.
Yeah, to be fair, I'd be captaining myself at the moment if there was a fancy league, because doing all right. But no, yeah, as I say, we're in a good moment at this moment in time, and we've got a couple of big games now coming up in the next few games. We've got a team that's joint on points with us, Blackpool, and then we play top of the league the week after. So again, this is going to be a good test for us now, these next 2 games, to see where we're really at, and hopefully we can get something from these 2 games, and keep the performance levels up, because
we'll have to triple captain you next week.
Yeah, triple captain. Yeah, no, but no. Again, it's just, as I say, football's a massive confidence game, and if you're enjoying your football and your confidence is high, then you can't wait for that next game to come. And on the flip side of that, if things aren't going too well, and maybe you're not performing at the best, then it sometimes can feel a little bit somber. And I think just to sort of put a perspective on that, I think Arsenal at the moment are probably feeling that way in terms of, if I can relate it to anyone, I think Arsenal players and the fans and all that at the moment, I think they must be feeling they're dreading the next game, because confidence is low, players aren't playing to the potential, the manager's under massive pressure, they can't really seem to buy a win, and that's a horrible place to be in as a footballer and as a football club. And I do feel for him a little bit in that respect, but you've just got to sort of try and battle through that period. And that's where we mentioned before about Manchester United in the dressing room having the characters, and I think Arsenal at this moment in time,
they're lacking it big time,
severely lack in that area. And I think they've probably got the wrong type of people in there, and not the right characters that can, when the chips are down, to G everyone up and, maybe grind a result out, and then maybe the confidence comes back. At this moment in time, I can't see how they're sort of going to pull a result out of somewhere, because I just don't see any potential people who have got that sort of mental grit and determination to get them out of that situation. And yeah, I mean, again, it's their own problem, and that the players and management need to sort of address that and try and get that resolved as soon as possible. But
I think a lot of clear the air talks need to happen there. I think that's what kind of needs to happen, and they kind of need to lay out what their expectations are and what the manager expects from their players. And
I think it's just a mess from top to bottom, if I'm honest, with at the moment. I think there's not just one particular thing. I think it's a sort of accumulative things that's going wrong, and obviously the results on the pitch are sort of
translating that
in, and yeah, so it won't be a short fix. It'll probably take a long time in terms of getting everything addressed. But
I always look at the situation like, look, be careful what you wish for. There's a lot of Arsenal fans in the past who wanted Arsene Wenger gone, and he gave that club stability over a long period of time. And this is where I kind of look like at the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer situation, and look what he's given to Man United in terms of stability and rejuvenating the dressing room and getting the right characters in there. I think if you look at the Arsenal side, you're absolutely right. There's not enough characters in there. There's not enough unity there. And I think that's where the contrast and difference are in terms of, you're looking at both clubs' transitions now. United are at a stage where their transition is almost complete. Arsenal are at a situation where they're probably at Jose Mourinho era.
Yeah.
Because they've picked up a couple of trophies in terms of the FA Cup and the Community Shield, if you really want to count the Community Shield. Like, they've picked up silverware, but they haven't picked up it in the league. And I think they're at that stage now where they probably need to get rid of their kind of players who aren't good enough, and kind of the players who are down in tools.
Yeah.
And they probably need to get a manager in to have the respect of the dressing room as well. I just don't think maybe at their situation they have that at the minute. Like, if you want to compare apples and oranges, Manchester United and Arsenal, you look at current situations, that'd be it really in terms of transitional periods.
Yeah, no, I agree totally, and I think it's, as I say, it's not going to be something that'll happen overnight. I think Arsenal's got a sort of, long and painful road ahead of them to get back to where they want to be. But again, it's something that you say, when Wenger was there, you had that stability, and I think, as you say, the right characters in the dressing room, it's clear to see that they haven't got them. As I said, talent only gets you so far, and that's sort of being sort of shown at the moment with Arsenal and the way they are, and you can see that as soon as they go 1-0 down, heads are dropping, and it's as though how many we're going to get beat by, not can we get back into this game. And it's a horrible place to be in, and it's not nice to sort of to see. But again, there's only themselves that they can get this. There's only them that can get themselves out of that situation. And I say, they are a massive club, and I do feel for them a little bit, but it happens. That's what happens in football. Clubs, it sort of swings in roundabouts. Clubs sort of, they're at the top 1 minute, and then, for whatever reason, they lose 3 or 4 big players or a manager, and things start sort of going the opposite way. And you've got to just try and find that sort of middle ground, so you don't go too far the other way, and then so you can sort of creep back up. Maybe if in a couple of years, I think that's where Arsenal have sort of, they've been going the wrong direction. They've been going where we've sort of been progressing each year and making a few better signings, and Ollie's been improving the squad, and now we've got the characters that can challenge and make a proper sort of assault on the league. I think Arsenal have sort of been the opposite end of the spectrum. They've been sort of getting worse and worse each year. They've been signing probably not the right players that the club needed at that time, and the characters in the club and whatever else isn't right. And that the sort of proofs in the pudding with the league position at the moment. I think it's
it's grim.
Yeah,
pretty grim at the moment. But look, they've a couple of promising young players there, but you need kind of more experienced players there to help guide them, because they're very talented. Like if you look at the Saka's, Smith Rowe's, players like that, all very good players, and Kieran Tierney as well. But like you need older, experienced match winners to help drive them to the next level, whereas they don't have it. Whereas you look at our young players, you have Greenwood, you have Rashford, players like that, McTominay, players like that who are very good young players, but then you have experienced players in there like your Varanes, you have Maguire in there, you have Cristiano Ronaldo, David De Gea, you have players like that who've won trophies.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they're lacking.
It's the right mix, and I think that's the massive difference at the moment between, the top clubs and obviously clubs like Arsenal are struggling. Them young players you mentioned, the likes of Smith Rowe and Saka, when the team's struggling at this moment in time, they needed somebody like maybe a Cristiano back in the day when he was, come through the club, and there was the likes of Roy Keane and people like that. They're getting
Goldie, Ryan Giggs, players like that who have been there and done it.
Yeah, exactly. And at the moment they haven't got that, and it's obviously, it's hard to watch at times. I think it's a shame for them young lads, because they should be sort of thriving at this moment in time at the age they are and the amount of games they've played now. And unfortunately, because the results and sort of they haven't got that sort of, team spirit and the characters who can sort of help them through that period, they're going to sort of suffer for that for maybe another couple of years until they either A, move away from Arsenal, or, B, the club identifies some proper players who can come in and sort of be that character who sort of, leads by example and keeps people in check and helps out the younger players and all that kind of thing. Whereas, as you just mentioned, United are totally in the opposite thing now, with the likes of Ronaldo, Varane, Maguire, proper leaders, proper people who've been at the top level, people who want to help the younger players, people who lead by example on and off the pitch. And yeah, I think, it's promising times at the moment for United, and hopefully this year we can, get a trophy. And I think that would then give the taste for some of these younger lads to want to succeed even more, because as I say, once you get that first trophy, it's like the floodgates could open then, and once you get that winning feeling and the mentality, it becomes sort of a habit, and that's exactly where we want to sort of go and get the players in that frame of mind.
I always align this current squad to 2006. I really do. I kind of get that same feeling where we just had the transition between 2003 and 2006, where we went a couple of years without winning the league, and we had to kind of rebuild the squad. The kind of younger players were coming in alongside the more experienced players. We won that one Carling Cup, and then from that, then we went on and won the Premier League 3 years in a row. We went on and won the Champions League. So Club World Cup as well. Like, we went on and won a lot of trophies. This team is nearly there. I think bringing in Cristiano could be that, that end game where he could be that one to really be that final piece to jigsaw. Now, people might say the midfield pair might be. Very well could be. But I think when you have a match winner like Cristiano there, that gets you over the line. That gets you a trophy. That makes you win games in moments where you mightn't be playing well. You have a player like Cristiano Ronaldo to drag you over the line. And look the other night for Portugal. Also, like, if that's an example of what a player can do for a team, like Portugal, they didn't look great, but then all of a sudden, 2 moments of magic, all of a sudden they win the game of football. So I think when you look at it from that perspective, we're just about there, and it's now just putting theory into practice now.
And that's what you pay the top money for. I mean, people probably complain about how much money the players earn and stuff like that, but that's why Cristiano Ronaldo earns the money that he earns, because he's the difference between the game there, as you just say, being 1-0 to Ireland and 2-1 to Portugal. If he's not in that team, then the result probably doesn't change.
I'm talking about going to Qatar next winter, probably.
Yeah. Oh, mate, I wouldn't blame you. Brilliant. But yeah, I mean, he's somebody who can change a game on his own, and that's the sort of difference and the game changer, if you like, that sort of Man United have not sort of had for quite a while, in terms of someone who can do it on the big occasion, and somebody who can, as you just said, drag the team over the line when things maybe aren't quite going to plan. I think he's going to be such an influence, and not just in his own performances. I think he will lift every single player's performance levels as well, because of just who he is. And you want to try, and the best players in the world, you always want to try and impress them and show them that you're a good player as well. And I think the levels that are going to sort of be demonstrated by him will bring out the best in some of these other players. And I think they'll relish, obviously, working and seeing him on the training ground, and then obviously linking up with him on a match day. I think it'd be fantastic. Really excited to sort of see him in his first game, and I wish him all the best. I hope he sort of hits the heights that I know he can hit, and prove all these people that are doubting him wrong. I have no doubt in my mind that he'll be a success, and he'll score goals, and I just hope that the fairy tale, if you like, will sort of come true, and he can bring back a trophy, and a league title would be unbelievable.
Yeah, definitely. And look, for me as well, I'm going over to that Villa game on the 25th this month. I wasn't even meant to be going. I had the Everton game booked for myself and my girlfriend's birthday. Not my girlfriend's birthday, but going over for her birthday at the start of October for the Everton game. But literally, I got a message saying, "Do you want 2 tickets face value for Everton?" I snapped their hand off. I was like, "That's not Everton, sorry, Aston Villa." I snapped their hand off, and I was like, "Absolutely." I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd see Ronaldo play for United ever again, like live and in person. Like, I thought the only other time it could possibly happen is either a testimonial game or a charity game or a soccer aid, something like that, though, years down the line, and one of them Legends matches. But the fact I'm going to see him play live in a Man United shirt again, last time I did, I was a child, and now I'm going to see him as an adult. It's mind blowing, like it really is, and I just can't wait to see him have that number 7 shirt on Stretford End again. It's just going to be absolutely sensational. And look, if he brings back the Premier League this season, or the Champions League, or brings some sort of trophy to this football club this year, it could really kickstart something huge with this football club. So hopefully, please God, Cristiano Ronaldo is that final piece in the jigsaw, and just helps Manchester United get back to where it's supposed to be. It's the pinnacle of English football and Europe. But on that note, we're going to wrap it up there for this evening, guys. Thanks very much to everyone for tuning in to this evening's podcast. Obviously, we'll be back next Friday for our Friday podcast with myself and Phil. We will be talking about the upcoming Newcastle game next week. There'll be a lot of talking points going into that game. We'll talk about all the latest Manchester United news as well. And so make sure to smash the like in the video and do subscribe to the channel. That subscribe button is under Phil. And make sure to hit that bell and notification button on your way out. So anytime me and Phil are live, or Wayne and Paul Parker are live, or a podcast with Gordon Hill, you will get the notification straight away, and you'll be able to watch our videos on the fly, and whether it's on your any smartphone device, YouTube app, computer, you name it, you'll get the device straight away on your YouTube account. So do check that out. And also, don't forget to check out our website, www.talkthedevils.co.uk, and be sure to check out our latest column on the website by Matt Galloway. Very good, informative article there, so do check that out as well. And as always, do drop ourselves, myself and Phil, a follow on Twitter as well. If you want to interact with us and talk Manchester United as well, don't forget to do that as well. But as always, guys, thanks very much to tuning in to Talking Devils, and we will be back next week to talk all things Manchester United. But until then, thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you next week.